Thank you to our members and friends for joining Tropical Audubon Society's annual Members Migration Meeting, part of our celebration of Earth Month each and every year. Due to gathering restrictions and abundance of caution, today's event is virtual, but I'm happy to be broadcasting live from our historic 1932 Doc Thomas House headquarters. Today in our program, we will honor two of our conservation heroes with awards that will be presented right here live. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniella Levine Cava will update us on the county's conservation efforts, and we'll hear how birds connect us all from Keynote Speaker Rafael Galvez, whose passion for birding took flight decades ago right here on this campus. We will also sneak in some business with a vote of our new board members. But first, I would like to highlight the impactful work we are doing here at Tropical Audubon Society. Despite operating under the COVID cloud since last spring, when we were forced to cancel our 2020 members migration, we've made headway with Biscayne Bay health, Everglades restoration and holding back urban sprawl, and our resident master gardener, Amy Kriegmer, and board member, Kirsten Hines, planned and implemented a suite of new bird-friendly pollinator gardens in our front yard on full view from Sunset Drive. We also engaged the Institute for Regional Conservation to restore our Pine Rockland demonstration forest. It's an excellent neighborhood example of a globally endangered habitat. Last fall, we also launched a reimagined Tropical Audubon Ambassadors Program, an education series that prepares and empowers community advocates to be lifelong champions for South Florida natural spaces. We also took the Cape Florida Banding Station under our wing to include its community science initiative as part of our programming. Whew. If that's not enough, we're launching into a master plan for the Steinberg Nature Center grounds, along with a full restoration of the Doc Thomas House right behind me. By maintaining your membership and supporting our capital campaign when we make the ask, you're cultivating our conservation mission and helping us advocate for the health of Biscayne Bay, protecting Biscayne National Park, count birds for science, champion Everglades restoration, and stand up for pine, rockland, and tropical hardwood habitats. We accomplished a lot. So I just can't tell you how much I appreciate your presence and ongoing support. If you want to help us keep the lights on, we'll be putting up a donate link now and at the end of today's program. So next up, I'm honored to share a conservation message from Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniella Levine Cava, who couldn't be with us live today due to a scheduling conflict, but who has graciously recorded her message earlier. She has been a friend of the environment throughout her life, and as commissioner proclaimed herself as our water warrior. I've seen her in her cape. We're so happy today to call her mayor. Please welcome the message of Mayor Daniella Levine Cava.
I'm Daniella Levine Cava. I'm mayor of Miami-Dade County, and I'm so very happy to stop by to help all of you at the Tropical Audubon Society cap off Earth Month 2021. Earth Day began on April 22nd in 1970, and I'm proud to say that I was there on day one as a high school student, promoting the health of our planet. In Miami-Dade County, climate change alarms are ringing loud and clear. We're definitely witnessing the signs of decline. Our coral reef is bleaching, our fish are dying in Biscayne Bay. We have seagrass die-off, sunny day flooding, an increase in extreme heat, and overflowing septic tanks that are polluting our waterways and our neighborhoods. And during this week's discussion with the Adrienne Arsht Rockefeller Center, we learned how we must act immediately because 4 degrees of climate change means we are uninsurable. Obviously unacceptable. So in honor of this 51st annual Earth Day, Miami-Dade County is stepping up to the plate and taking bold action. The county is working to strengthen our infrastructure, plan for more resilient communities, enhance our natural protections, and promote economic resilience, all at the same time. So far, we've made progress on a number of key initiatives, like working with the state of Florida to launch a $20 million fund to restore and preserve Biscayne Bay, converting our residents from septic to sewer, and releasing our countywide sea level rise strategy. And this week on Earth Day, we rolled out 2 new resources to guide our efforts to protect the Bay and tackle climate change. The first was our release of the updated Biscayne Bay report card and website in a new interactive, super friendly format, which you can visit at miamidade.gov/Biscayne Bay report card, or just Biscayne Bay. And the second was the release of our new climate action strategy, which lays out a framework for county government and the community to achieve a 50% reduction in greenhouse gas emission by 2030 and get to net zero carbon by 2050, transforming the way we use energy and the way we get around. I was so impressed, and I'm so grateful to all of you at Tropical Audubon for the work that you do, including your incredible ambassador program. We all know that ensuring the resilience and longevity of our community is something that will require all of us working together. I was also so impressed to learn how this free educational course that you have created equips South Floridians with the training and knowledge they need to go into our community and to become effective advocates for the environment. These are the kinds of programs that leave lasting impacts on our community. And I would like to thank you for all of your work on behalf of our residents, past, present, and future. Thank you for giving me some time to drop in and say hello, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in person very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. We thank the mayor for all the work she does to protect our county's precious natural resources. We are also excited to partner with Miami-Dade County on the mayor's Dark Skies initiative. We hope that this will evolve to be an annual or biennial event. By turning out the city lights, we will protect the migrating birds by giving them safer passage through South Florida as they follow the Atlantic Flyway north in the spring and south in the fall. Next, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Rafael Galvez. He's been an inspiration to us all with his passions for birding and art. His enthusiasm will make each of you a birder or an artist or both. Rafael travels the world as a birding guide for Victor Emmanuel Nature Tours. He's a board member for the Florida Ornithological Society. He's the coordinator for the Florida Keys Hawk Watch and an advisory member of Tropical Audubon Society. He has been part of Tropical Audubon Society since his youth, and he continues to serve us proud through each and every one of his endeavors. Rafael will be taking questions, by way of the question and answer screen, or the Q&A on your screen. With that, I welcome Rafael Galvez.
Thank you, Joe. I feel truly honored to be here at the Members Migration. Again, my name is Rafael Galvez, and I'd like to share some thoughts about how birds bring us together. There are inseparable lines connecting our places here in South Florida to a diversity of points across the hemispheres, drawn by the migrations of birds and people. And it has long been clear to me that Tropical Audubon Society has given us a voice to share our personal flights and an opportunity to flock together for conservation. Do you ever identify with birds? I'm not talking about identifying birds, but seeing yourself in the birds you're observing. For a lot of us, living our lives with birds, it is difficult not to see ourselves in them. That backyard bunting at your feeder, or that
Sorry,
migratory
Rafael,
thrush.
please share your screen.
Give me a second here. The screen should be shared. It is being shared. Let me try it again. Sorry for the technical difficulty. I hope that's better now. Okay, so let's say that you come eye to eye with a bright red bird at a rockland hammock along Biscayne Bay during spring migration. Have you ever wondered about how that bird got there in the first place, the challenges that individual bird had to endure to be there at that specific location, the right time and place for you to spot it, focus on it, and admire it before it flies off? There's a chance that bird spent our boreal winter in Bolivia, where other observers recognize it in a forested slope near Cochabamba as a quitrique colorado. By February, that quitrique is on its way north up the Andean Yungas into Peru when it comes eye to eye with human observers in Madre de Dios, and they call it piranga roja. By late February, it is recognized in Brazil, and it is called Señazu de Fogo. Once in Venezuela, observers acknowledge its migratory prowess and call it Cardenal Migratorio. It then decides to leave South America and travel up the Lesser Antilles, still going north. And once in Haiti, it is recognized as Tongara vermillon. By early April, it is seen near Varadero, Cuba, where it goes by Tanagra. Go figure. Then, on a mid-April morning with gentle southwest winds, someone sees the bird at Matheson Hammock on a cabbage palm, and it is entered into eBird as a summer tanager. Or is it a piranga roja? Haven't you ever paused to wonder about the perilous journeys, challenges, and accomplishments that one individual bird has survived before it finally crosses paths with you? We live in a time when we're being asked to consider the opportunities and privileges we are granted in context with the rest: bird and habitat, location and culture, men and women, Black and brown. We do not live in a vacuum. It is time to acknowledge that there are connections we cannot afford to miss. It is not enough to simply identify. We need to identify with. During my early teens, as my family followed the trajectory of the summer tanager, and we migrated from Peru and arrived to South Florida, a number of well-meaning people crossed my path and encouraged me to pursue birds. They were all associated with Tropical Audubon Society. They showed me simple acts of kindness, just a bit of interest that made all the difference in the world. Since then, I've worked with young naturalists for a long time. There's a general noticeable gap between the audiences we traditionally reach and those that remain on the other side of the cultural gap, exacerbated by differences in education, access to resources, language barriers. How do we make nature accessible to a wider demographic in our community? How do we reach younger people, folks in the inner cities, the various migrant communities, and help them find access to nature? How do we bring them into our fold? These are big questions with no easy answers. Many of my first experiences in the outdoors when my family first arrived were in agricultural fields. One early summer, I accompanied my dad as he drove semis across the state, hauling tomatoes or rocks. I had no binoculars, but had a field guide, and I drew all over it. I saw many birds that I would have never seen near my house. I remember the first eastern meadowlarks along the highway stretches, and a flooded swale by a field with a dozen blackneck stilts. All the while we loaded freshly picked peppers. Some of us in Miami-Dade still live in areas where these kinds of sites are common, where migrant workers pick fruit and vegetables by hand. Now, that may not be the type of access to nature we're talking about, but in the early 80s, you could see people laboring fields throughout South Dade. That was the case with much of Kendall west of 117th Avenue, and then going up Galloway from Killian to Miller at large undeveloped stretches. I'd walk the fields from the 878 overpass to Sunset, and on summer afternoons, you'd flush several nighthawks and killdeer. They were probably breeding there. I also saw smooth-billed anis many times there. And there were always people working those fields. When I finally found like-minded friends, I was attending a school for the arts in downtown Miami. But I was the only one that had crossed paths with a real birder in the field. I had the fortune at the age of 13 that after knocking on the door of the Doc Thomas house, a wise great horned owl opened the door. It was Bob Kelly, then president of TAS, who showed me around and had conversations with me about Archaeopteryx and bird migration. It began my relationship with tropical Audubon. Years later, I'd find myself looking for songbirds in a hammock during a TAS field trip, following the taunting calls of a ruckus, black-whiskered vireo of a birder, Paul Bithorn. At school in downtown, we brought nature with us. My friend from Nicaragua was a colorful libellula, loved marshes and water lilies, and she was absolutely passionate about dragonflies. My Mexican-American friend was a mangrove rail, had a keen eye for marine life, was elegantly lanky, and crazy about the bay. My friend from Chile was unique as a Swainson's warbler, loved the rocklands, and even made a weekend camp under a tip-up mound of an overturned mahogany. My friend from Haiti was a godwit, stately, born of flights across the hemispheres. We were all art students. We all drew, painted, wrote, and sang about birds. We loved Peterson and Audubon, but also the expressionist and secessionist painters. If given an opportunity, there is an ease with which young people embrace their interest in nature through every means of expression made available to them. Nature is that catalyst that awakens the senses of wonder and discovery, an excellent foundation for the type of creative people we need in our community working for the environment. All those friends are still involved in the arts, and 3 now work in education. All of them are great naturalists in their own right. But the journey has many perils along the way. One of my friends and her family were deported soon after high school. My family, we struggled tremendously through the naturalization process. And I still considered myself, but in 1980s downtown, nature was hard to find. In one of those misguided acts of youthful expression, I got in trouble with the law after some of us got caught spray painting inside an abandoned water facility. While most got off with a misdemeanor, in my case, it got all wrapped up with my immigration status. What a mess. Years of ramifications. I had spray painted the word kestrel on a wall. I don't know if you see that. That's an actual photo of the event. I was then enrolled into a program that required a tremendous amount of hours of community service. And one day, looking through the paper, I found the most fantastic opportunity. Researchers were looking for volunteers to stand along the roadside in the Florida Keys to count migrating hawks. I was super nervous when I made the phone call and a man answered. And I explained that I was a bird watcher, that I would love to count hawks for the community, that I promised to be dedicated, that I was a teen, I had no car, I had no binoculars. The man did not wait a second to tell me that I simply did not qualify. And hawk watching would have to wait. Small acts of interest shown onto others make lasting differences in someone's life. So to bring it back around, decades later, I was leading a tour with a group of a dozen observers. And as we crossed agricultural fields, this time I had a scope and binoculars, we stopped to look at a number of migrating falcons. There were several kestrels perched on the wires and 3 peregrines were kettling overhead. There were oohs and ahs from the group. And then a beat up old bus pulled into the field and Haitian migrant workers unloaded their baskets to pick green beans by hand. There were oohs and ahs from everybody as the falcons kept on spinning around over the air. The migrant workers wore layers of mismatching skirts and sweaters and straw hats for protection. It looked like a scene from 200 years ago, and maybe some of you have seen these scenes in South Florida. Sheepishly, I made acknowledgement of the migrant workers, but I sensed right away that there was this uncomfortable feeling among my companions, so I got quiet. And what remained with me, I couldn't stop thinking about some of the workers. They looked like teenagers, maybe like the summer tanager. They had arrived from a perilous migration. And I wondered if they had a path to a sustainable environment and a fulfilling life. Despite my transgression with spray painting, I eventually found hawk watching and now play a role in the Florida Keys Migration Monitoring Project. I'm very proud that Tropical Audubon Society has seen value in this effort and supports the project and acknowledges the value of migration in general by supporting the Cape Florida Banding Station. The 2 projects go hand in hand. Working at these sites, we often get visitors from throughout the area. Many are people of Latin American heritage. Often it is their first time learning about bird migration. Time and again, I've seen folks make their own connections between the transcontinental migrations we witness daily at the Hawk Watch and their own personal migrations. We get to see many peregrine falcons in the Keys, and jaws drop when you point one out and explain that that bird likely bred in Canada and will continue flying south, potentially over a dozen countries before settling in southern South America. And in the act of doing that, it is in a sense drawing a line across the hemispheres that connects our tiny sites in the Florida Keys and in Cape Florida to the entire globe. I'll close with this anecdote. Recently, we had the privilege of following a peregrine falcon with a transmitter as it did such a flight. The bird bred near Greenland, then migrated south past several hawk watch sites in Ontario, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Virginia, and eventually into Florida. Before it reached the Keys, 30 migration counters had made a connection to this individual bird, not including the many visitors at each of their sites. There were 4 of us counting in the Keys at that moment. And then the peregrine continued south over Cuba, across the Gulf, into Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, all the way to southern Chile. By the end of its journey, that one bird had drawn a connecting line between our little park in South Florida and more than 100 protected areas across the Americas, underlining the hemispheric relevance of our efforts. More than 3 dozen observers were also connected by this migratory line. And before reaching Chile, the peregrine even flew along the coast of Peru, where my brother was living at the time. He went out with a group of observers and saw peregrines migrating past Lima. And despite not having seen him for many years, I'd love to think that we were also connected by that one peregrine. This is a time when we need to be telling personal stories about birds and the environment. There's a conversation being had about who gets access to nature. We're privileged here. A large, affluent community with access to resources, education, and people in the position of power. We're also surrounded by 4 national parks and dozens of state parks, and the constant pressures of a mammoth metropolitan area. As we burst at the seams, how do we make our green areas viable for people and birds of all backgrounds? I will end by inviting you to participate in one of our migration projects under the umbrella of Tropical Audubon Society. The Cape Florida Banding Station in Bill Backs at Key Biscayne, and the Florida Keys Hawk Watch in Curry Hammock State Park Marathon. Keep your eyes peeled for those who come along your path, whether a summer tanager, a Quitrique Colorado, or a young Tenaga Vermillon from Haiti, who could use a few words of encouragement to connect with nature in a transformative manner. So thank you so much. I will take a couple of questions now. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking to see some questions. A second here. All right. Well, some people are making some very kind comments on my artwork, and I really appreciate that. There's also a question about are there any upcoming counts or watches in person? You can check. Please look at the website for Cape Florida Banding Station. I don't know what protocols are following at the time, but if you look at the website, you can get in touch with Michelle Davis, who runs the program, and you can make arrangements. Of course, these are difficult, sensitive times with social distancing and whatnot, and typically the banding station doesn't take too many visitors to begin with. In terms of the Hawk Watch, we will be running the Hawk Watch starting by latest September 1st. We're hoping to start even earlier, and it is out in the open in a deck with plenty of space for people to socially distance. The counters will likely be wearing masks the whole time anyway, so please also look at our website for when we publish dates for the fall. We only count during the fall. Well, I think that is my time. So thank you so much, and back to you, Joe.
Thank you, Rafael. You never disappoint. I think that many of us had that connection with that great horned owl. I believe that was Bob Kelly. And I think I've birded with that Swainson's warbler and black whiskered vireo that you mentioned. Rafael, I very much look forward to birding with you. On this beautiful sunny day here at the Doc Thomas House, we'll move on to our live presentations. Well, Rafael was live at his house, but here on set, we will go on to our conservation awards. And I'll go on to our first conservation award, which is the Polly Redford Citizen Award. and it will be presented to the late James Michael Porter. To tell you a little bit about Polly Redford, she was a Tropical Audubon Society board member in the 1960s. Together with her husband, Jim Redford, and Joe Browder and Lloyd Miller, they fought tirelessly for Biscayne Bay, first against an oil refinery project named Miami-Dade, and then challenging FPL for planning to discharge the heated, polluted waters of the nuclear power plant directly into the bay. Later, they regrouped to stop developers from building a causeway across the bay, and finally advocated for and persuaded Congress for the designation of Biscayne National Monument, which today, of course, is Biscayne National Park. She's been described, or was described, as the most ardent environmentalist in her day. Like Polly, Jim Porter was an individual that never gave up fighting for the bay. Fishing and enjoying the bay with his family all his life, Jim did not stand for nonsense from polluters and developers. He used his legal talents in representing Tropical Audubon Society in our suit against FPL for violating the Clean Water Act. He was clever and creative in designing legal strategies representing Tropical Audubon Society and Miami Waterkeeper in the Port of Miami dredge case. And while fighting cancer, Jim could not allow Everglades restoration to be jeopardized by the 836 MDX extension project, and continued his representation of Tropical Audubon alongside fellow attorneys Richard Grosso and Paul Schwepp. During those strategy sessions, Jim participated by phone, asking questions and continuing to be integral in the case. I remember during the hearing itself, Jim was on by phone, and he was still an ever-present force. A true hero of South Florida and the Bay, and all of us here at Tropical Audubon Society would like to present Jim's wife, Carol, and his son, Kevin, with the Polly Redford Citizen Award. I will read the award here first. The Polly Redford Citizen Service Award in honor of James Michael Porter for being a true hero to our environment, for dedicating his life to fighting for the pure, clean water resources that are the well springs of our region's precious habitats, for remaining undaunted in his mission to protect his beloved Biscayne Bay and resolute about Everglades restoration, for never giving up on defending our environment. Jim will remain with us in memory as we continue his good fight. Presented by Tropical Audubon Society today, April 25th, 2021. Carol? Kevin?
Thank you. Thank you, Joe, and to the rest of the board members of Tropical Audubon Society. We're very touched to be here today and accept this award on behalf of my dad. Tropical Audubon was very special to him, and so was the work that he did with Tropical. Those who knew him know how passionate he was for the South Florida environment, having grown up here since he was a young boy. I know he would be very honored to be here to accept this award. So thank you very much.
Very happy to learn Kevin followed Jim's footsteps as a graduate of FSU's law school and is working in law today. We look forward to seeing Kevin out there in the law field. And thank you, Carol. I got paper somewhere. Our next award is the Dan Beard Government Service Award. This is presented to Gwen Burzycki. To help us present the award will be Craig Grossenbacher, Chief Durham Natural Resources Planning Section, Chief at Durham Natural Resources Planning Section, and also Janet Gill, Director of the Environmentally Endangered Lands Program. I'll let them come up and say a few words before we present the award to Gwen.
Thanks, Joe. I'm going to read a statement from Cynthia Guerra, the previous yield director. I think it embodies this message from her about how most of you feel towards Gwen. It definitely rings true for me. So here I go. Cynthia couldn't be here today, but she wanted us to read this. Sincere thanks to Gwenny for all you do and all you have ever done. Ever since I first met Gwen in 1829, just kidding, I have been in awe of everything she accomplishes and everything she knows and her incredible generosity of spirit. I had prepared a similar tribute for George Gann in the past, and I wanted to do the same here. Apologies for any repetition, but I can't help myself. I am blessed to know so many amazing people. Here's how Gwen has enriched my life. Now, she did a really cool thing where she took the first letter of Gwen's name and last name and tried to make a sentence with it. But since I'm reading this, it's going to be awkward. So I'm just going to read it as full sentences. Gwen is genuinely dedicated to the protection of threatened ecosystems everywhere. You were endlessly willing to be patient at teaching me the same plants over and over and over. Round in the middle and pointy at both ends, and drip tips be darned. You taught me about LBBs and short hydro period wetlands. How did I get through college without knowing what those were? And I was ever so fortunate to be in your orbit for a time, taking in as much of your guidance as I could. All of the best parts of my career, and mine also, are because of your mentorship through the years, but especially when I was so incredibly green and naive. You have never-ending enthusiasm about sharing your passion for nature with everyone that you come into contact with, and you are beyond compare in providing mentorship and being a gifted communicator and leader. I appreciate that you make it a priority to maintain an unrelenting dedication to engage, empower, and share with so many others. You are the realest embodiment of environmental ethics, and you also have genuine concern and empathy for your fellow human, both known and unknown. Zoinks! You always have chocolate, and you have the superhuman strength of not overindulging. You deserve lifelong possession of a golden South Florida Water Management District gate key so you can check in on all those special places that have benefited from your dedicated care. You have super duper endurance and ability in the field, leaving those of us with short limbs, a few extra pounds, and or bad cardio health in the dust. I know some of those places are waiting for you to come back. You could wear Birkenstocks like no one else, and you blew my mind the first time I saw you eat a piece of fruit. Peel, core, and all. In you, I found a kindred spirit that spoke to my language and understood my passions. It's hard to capture your impact on my life. You have become part of my identity and my soul, for me also. Thank you, Gwen. I am so sorry I couldn't be there to give you a giant COVID-safe hug. How do you do that exactly? You deserve a wonderful retirement chasing your bliss. Cynthia. P.S. Please come visit me in the Keys. Doggies are welcome. I want you to know I feel exactly the same. On to Craig. I love you, Gwen.
Gwen and I have been working together for 3 decades. Does it seem like that?
I think it has been 3 decades.
Gwen moved to Miami-Dade in 1990 with her lifelong partner, Paul, who was a merchant marine after working as a research assistant for Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institution. In April 1991, she was already on the board of the Dade chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society, where she served as president for 3 years and treasurer for 4 years. And she was on many organizing committees, including the 2000 Native Plant Society State Conference Committee. Additionally, she worked many chapters, native plant days, as well as led numerous field trips despite having to arise early on weekend mornings. She was an annual volunteer with Paul, who was a member of the Return Peace Corps volunteer group of South Florida, where they would annually take 100 children from underserved communities to Everglades National Park for an outing. Speaking of Everglades National Park, she has been the most fearsome bad plant remover in the chapter's landscaping project at the Cove Visitor Center in the park for the past 20 years or more. In 2011, the State Native Plant Society awarded her the Green Palmetto Award for all of her contributions, including her work for the organization in the county. So I wanted to just go over a few career highlights. There were very many, so we had to narrow it down. So Gwen started working at Durham in 1990 as a biologist too in the Wetlands Planning Group, and that's where I first met her. Her first big project was the Southwest Biscayne Bay Advanced Identification Study with the Environmental Protection Agency. Gwen could easily step over the red mangrove roots while her shorter field assistants were left behind in the dust as she frolicked through the mangroves. These advanced identification studies by EPA at the time were a planning effort to identify the wetlands that should remain preserved under the applicable regulations at the time. And after Durham provided the last deliverable to EPA, I remember talking to them, and EPA told us that the quality of this advanced identification that she had provided was the highest and the best advanced identification planning project that they'd ever achieved at the time. So that was quite something. She has overseen the South Dade vegetative mapping of the South Dade Wetlands Eel Preserve and has been the preserve manager of more than 20,000 acres of these wetlands since the first parcel was acquired in 1994. Gwen was on the board of what was known then as the Florida Exotic Pest Plant Council and is still a technical team member. One area of Gwen's expertise where she's renowned throughout the agencies and the scientists is in the control of the invasive shoe button Ardisia. She is considered one of the most knowledgeable scientists in the treatment of this invasive species. She notably served as a leader in a leadership role for the project delivery team on the C-111 spreader canal project in the Everglades, for the Everglades Restoration Project. And to this day, she's helping in the BBCR project, which is the second phase of C-111 in the BBCW project. And then this week, we'll be shipping off a bunch of shape files to the Army Corps and the district that she has created for that project. So thank you, Gwen. Also, Gwen has a little who she mentored with Big Brothers and Little Sisters, and her little Falenka has now graduated from college, and I think she's here with us today.
Thank you very much, Craig and Janet. I actually did not read the part about Daniel Beard, but I'll read a little bit now because it just fits in perfect. He was Daniel Beard of our award was the longest serving superintendent of Everglades National Park from 1947 to 1958. During that time, he served as president of Tropical Audubon Society. He established his reputation as a biologist and conservationist while he served the Fish and Wildlife Service of the Interior Department as manager of Everglades National Wildlife Refuge before it became a park. And then, of course, superintendent. He was instrumental to bringing in a new emphasis on education, as you can see Gwen has done, and information programs. As a biologist, superintendent, and president, he dedicated his life to the parks and the environment. And I believe Gwen has done the same. So to present the award, the Dan Beard Government Service Award in honor of Gwen Burzycki for decades of selfless public service protecting and restoring Miami-Dade County natural ecosystems, for leading the protection of wetlands, Everglades restoration projects, and volunteer efforts to restore native vegetation at the Cove Visitor Center, for being an environmental champion, leader, teacher, and mentor to countless friends, colleagues, and children across South Florida, presented by Tropical Audubon Society today, April 25th, 2021. Gwen?
Okay, that'll be a little clearer. I get really muffled behind these masks. I want to keep it really short because it should be really short. I have been known to take 45 minutes to deliver a 2-minute talk. So somebody got the sheep hook to pull me off. Mostly what I want to say is thank you very much for the award. When Joe called me and said, we're giving you this award, my response was, what did I do? Well, I guess I did more than I thought I did, but what I really want to tell you today is that everything that I've done has been part of a team effort. I can't do what I do without the people around me. And I want to give acknowledgement to 30 years of working for DERM, which when I first joined it was a premier nationally known environmental organization. It's now part of another department, but that doesn't mean that we don't still do what we're supposed to be doing. And I've worked with some absolutely fabulous people, and it would take me 45 minutes to name everybody. So I'm just going to say, you know who you are. Between my team, my coworkers, the people working for me, my supervisors, people that went to bat for the environment. I have one supervisor, I remember her coming down from the director's office and she said, I made him sign that permit. I wasn't going to sign it. I didn't think it was a good one. And she taught me a lot that day. The people that work with us, for us in the Parks Department, the Natural Areas Management Group, I want to give a big recognition to the biologists that work there, many of whom started as dermites, by the way, and also the crews. I highly, highly respect our exotic control crews. They are our burn crews. They go out 24, well, not 24/7, but you know, every business day they are out there treating exotics or conducting burns or cleaning up solid waste. And I highly respect what they do. They do this in July and August when it's 95 degrees out and 80% humidity. And I could not do what I'm doing. I would not get the recognition that I'm getting without everybody pulling together and doing what they were asked to do. This is a team effort. I consider this to be a team award. And everybody standing here at the Doc Thomas House and everybody that's worked with me that's in on Zoom, you're all included in this award, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Gwen. An inspiration to us all, both of our heroes today. Again, thank you all. Thank you to our awardees, to the Porter family. Just totally inspirational people who've lived just great lives. And Gwen, you still have plenty to give. So before I conclude our annual meeting, we ask that Tropical Audubon Society members who are attending virtually to vote on our slate of board members as required by our bylaws. This is that short little business meeting that we have at each meeting, at each annual meeting. I want everyone to pay attention. I will first list the current board members who are up for re-election, and we will vote to approve each of them onto the board. I will then introduce the new board members, at which time we will take a second vote. Again, please approve each individual for each seat on the board. As I am reading through the names, a ballot will appear on your screen. We ask that members vote in the allotted few minutes. So I will begin with the board members that are up for re-election. And those will go somewhat quick. José Francisco Barros, that is me. Kirsten Hines, Daniel Jones, Gary Milano, Richard Pettigrew, Jeff Szymanski, and Dr. Tiffany Troxler. So again, on your screen, please vote to approve these members for re-election onto the board. I will give a minute or two till I get the thumbs up from our vote takers. As soon as we finish, I hope everyone will enjoy this beautiful afternoon. As the sun's going down, it's cooling down a bit. We've got a nice breeze. Spring is here and may not last long before summer arrives. So far, we've got a 50% vote. How many people are on? So again, I encourage everyone to, I'm not sure how you vote, whether you raise your hand on each of these people, a thumbs up, put a thumbs up or a thumbs down, hopefully a thumbs up. And let's give it one more minute. And while you're voting for that, or finishing the vote for that, I will then move on to our new board members, or I should say our nominees. So I will now introduce the nominees for the open board positions. I'll give you a name and a little description of each. Ileana Ardila, a highly energetic birder with a keen photographic eye. She's a veterinarian technician, a biologist, and environmentalist. Together with her husband, they run Project SNP, spaying and neutering thousands of pets nationwide. Known in social media as Birding by Bus, she beautifully documented a trip to Alaska where she and her husband, Mark, married and made it back by bus. They have now added leading tours nationally and internationally to their resume, and we look forward to welcoming them to Tropical Audubon Society. Our second nominee is Sarah Lane Condi, a returning Tropical Audubon board member who will be crucial to making Tropical Audubon Society sound financially. She is a CPA who enjoys the outdoors, assisting with our pollinator garden and making sure that we balance our books. We welcome Sarah back to the board. She was always a lot of fun and a great asset. Victor Dover. Victor is an architect with a degree from the suburb and town design program at the University of Miami. He is well known for focusing in creating and restoring real neighborhoods as a basis for a sound community. He has worked with Tropical Audubon Society on many projects and has co-authored op-eds together with our board members. We look forward to having Victor on our board. Dr. Mark Kramer, you've heard me refer to him already. Enthralled by nature since he was a boy, he was bit by the ornithological bug while studying in Cornell. He became a veterinarian and specialized in birds and exotic pets. He, together with his wife, Eliana, lead bird tours and run project and together run Project SNP. They at this moment are on their way to Mexico to lead a bird tour. Du Bois Millage, a native Miamian, talented musician, nurse, and lover of the environment and environmental education, a longtime volunteer to Tropical Audubon Society, and as a board member, she will continue the lineage of the Millages on our board, following the very large footsteps of her uncle Alan Millage and her greatly beloved father, Louis Brother Millage, who served on our board. With that, I'll again ask you to vote. Please approve these board members with the thumbs up, and I'll give you a couple minutes to vote, and we will soon be concluding. While we've been waiting on the vote, we've had the sounds of yellow chevron parakeets flying overhead, gray kingbirds beginning to fly in and singing, mockingbirds imitating gray kingbirds, red-bellied woodpeckers. Always a beautiful day here at the Steinberg Nature Center. One more minute. Where's Amy? Give me 1 second. Okay, was that an approval? Andrew, very good. All right, thank you very much. We have a new group of board members that will work hard for Tropical Audubon Society and our environment. I invite you all to join us one way or another. Before I close, I need to thank many, although it will not be all, of the individuals that work hard every day for Tropical Audubon Society. Our volunteers, way too many to mention. Our hardworking board of directors, and now some new ones. Our executive director, Paula Fedleda, and our staff, many which are doing double duty today. At the camera, Federico Acevedo, I should say. Co-hosting remotely, Allison Anchelmeyer. Monitoring from home. Actually, I thought you were monitoring from home, Amy. Amy's actually here. Monitoring from home is Javier Pratt, I believe. And the one who has not slept a wink in the last week organizing this event and directing the show from the library right here, Anna Lima. This staff is dedicated morning, noon, and nights and weekends to Tropical Audubon Society, and this event would not have taken place without them. I thank you all for attending. Read our newsletter, follow us on social media, engage on our website or popular Facebook bird board, and if you wish to make an Earth Month donation, our link is on the screen. And come fall, if all goes well, we look forward to resuming our bird walks and activities at Tropical Audubon and the Doc Thomas House. Thank you all for attending today. Thank you for all the support that everyone has given us, staff, staff's significant others, who I was going to name. And thank you. Have a great afternoon.